On April 10, 1912, the Titanic, hailed as the unsinkable ship, set sail on its maiden voyage. The official story says, just 4 days later, it met a tragic end, sinking to the depth of the Atlantic Ocean after striking an iceberg. But what if the story we have been told isn't the whole truth? What if the Titanic's demise was simply not an accident, but an orchestrated event driven by greed and ambition? We all have seen the romantic movie, and some people still debate whether Rose could have helped Jack on the wooden door. Even when depicting the incidents, the writers of the film doesn't doubt that the Titanic sinking was just sheer bad luck. What if I tell you that this is far away from the truth, and that the Titanic didn't sink, and it was a whole scheme to reap in insurance money and to get rid of business competitors? Now let's sink into that mystery. Yeah, with pun intended. At the center of this story is jpmorgan, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men of his time. Morgan had vested interest in the Titanic through his ownership of the White Star Line, the company that built the ship. But what many people don't know is that the Titanic was not the only ship in the White Star Line fleets. Enter the Olympic, the Titanic's nearly identical sister ship. The Olympic and the Titanic were part of the White Star Line's Olympic-class ocean liners, designed to be the largest and most luxurious ships of their time. They shared nearly identical blueprints and were built to the same specifications. From their massive hulls to their opulent interiors, the Olympic and the Titanic were virtually indistinguishable to the average observer. Both ships boasted amenities such as grand staircases, luxurious cabins, and state-of-the-art facilities, setting new standards for luxury travel. But it wasn't just their appearance that was similar. The two ships also shared the same technical specifications, including their size, speed, and propulsion systems. To the casual observer, the Olympic and the Titanic were one and the same, but beneath their luxurious facades lay a sinister secret that would shake the world to its core. The Olympic have been involved in a series of accidents and needed costly repairs. Morgan, facing financial losses, devised a plan to switch the Olympic with the Titanic and sink it for insurance purposes. For those orchestrating the conspiracy, the similarities between the Olympic and the Titanic provided the perfect cover for their plan. By switching the two ships and sinking the Olympic disguised as the Titanic, they could reap the benefits of the insurance payout while preserving the reputation of the White Star Line. The idea goes that the Olympic disguised as the Titanic would meet its fate at the hands of an iceberg, while the real Titanic would quietly continue sailing under a new identity. But sinking a ship of the Titanic's magnitude required careful planning and coordination. Some believe that Morgan used his influence to ensure that the Titanic's voyage was inadequately staffed and equipped, making it vulnerable to disaster. But how did that happen? How did the ship sink? For the sake of not confusing you, we will call the ship that sank as the Titanic, as it set sail on its alleged maiden voyage. Theorists argue that the stage was set for disaster long before the ship ever encountered an iceberg. According to their claims, the ship was deliberately understaffed and ill-equipped to handle emergencies, making it vulnerable to catastrophe. Despite its massive size and luxurious amenities, the Titanic carried a surprisingly small crew for a ship of its magnitude. With just over 800 crew members on board, many believe that the ship was severely understaffed, particularly in crucial areas such as the engine room and the bridge. This shortage of personnel meant that essential tasks such as maintaining a proper lockout and responding promptly to distress signals were often neglected or overlooked. Some conspiracy theorists suggest that this lack of manpower was intentional, designed to create vulnerabilities that could be exploited when the time came to sink the ship. In addition to the inadequate staffing, the Titanic was also equipped with a woefully insufficient number of lifeboats. Despite being capable of carrying over 2,200 passengers and crew, the ship was outfitted with just 20 lifeboats, enough to accommodate only a fraction of those on board. This discrepancy between the Titanic's capacity and its lifeboat provision has long been a point of contention among historians and conspiracy theorists alike. Some argue that the ship's owners, including JPMorgan, knowingly skimped on lifeboats. When the disaster struck and the Titanic began to sink, the shortage of lifeboats proved to be a fatal flaw, resulting in the loss of over 1,500 lives. Some believe that the inadequate staffing and equipment aboard the Titanic were not mere oversights, but deliberate decisions made with sinister intent. But was that all? Removing lifeboats and understaffing a big ship? No. The conspiracy sinks deep. According to some conspiracy theories, J.B. Morgan's influence extended beyond mere financial interest and into the very operations of the Titanic itself. It's been suggested that Morgan had operatives planted among the crew and passengers to manipulate the ship's course and ensure it sailed into treacherous waters. These operatives may have falsified navigation records or ignored warnings about icebergs and dangerous reefs, deliberately guiding the Titanic into harm's way. By orchestrating the ship's route, Morgan could create the conditions necessary for a catastrophic collision without arousing suspicion. Furthermore, some speculate that once the Titanic struck the iceberg, Morgan's agents were tasked with ensuring that his rivals did not have access to the limited numbers of lifeboats available. These individuals, disguised among the crew or passengers, may have actively obstructed or prevented certain passengers from reaching the lifeboats, prioritizing their own survival and the interests of their benefactor. Adding fuel to the conspiracy fire are allegations that Morgan used the Titanic disaster to eliminate his business rivals. Several wealthy and influential individuals who opposed Morgan's business dealings were booked on the Titanic's maiden voyage, only to cancel at the last minute. Were these cancellations mere coincidences? Or were they part of a larger scheme to silence Morgan's critics once and for all? In the days leading up to the Titanic's departure, a number of these individuals mysteriously canceled their reservations, opting instead to remain ashore. Among them were business competitors who stood into the way of Morgan's financial dominance, as well as politicians who opposed his monopoly-like control over various industries. Some theories suggest that Morgan may have used his influence and connections to persuade or intimidate these individuals into staying behind, knowing full well the fate that awaited the Titanic. By ensuring that his rivals did not board the ill-fated ship, Morgan effectively silenced their dissent and removed obstacles to his continued dominance in the business world, and gone through the plan with whoever he thought was too much of a risk. In the chaos and confusion that ensued after the collision, the alleged presence of Morgan's operatives could have contributed to the disparity in survival rates among the passengers. While some were able to secure spots on the lifeboats, others, including Morgan's rivals, may have been left behind to face a tragic fate. While there is little concrete evidence to support these claims, the idea that J.P. Morgan had individuals on board the Titanic to manipulate its course and control access to the lifeboats adds a sinister layer to the already tragic story of the ship's demise. As we continue to explore the mysteries surrounding the Titanic conspiracy, we are left to wonder, just how deep did J.P. Morgan's influence truly run? And what role did it play in one of history's greatest tragedies? In the wake of the Titanic disaster, the world was left reeling from the loss of over 1,500 lives and the unprecedented scale of the tragedy. But as the dust settled and the survivors were rescued, attention turned to the investigation into the causes of the sinking. An official inquiry was launched to examine the circumstances surrounding the Titanic's demise and to assign responsibility for the disaster. However, some conspiracy theorists argue that the investigation was compromised from the start, with key evidence suppressed or manipulated to protect the interests of powerful individuals like J.P. Morgan. Behind the scenes, efforts were underway to file insurance claims for the loss of the Titanic, with the ship insured for a substantial sum, including coverage for loss of life and property. The sinking represented a significant financial opportunity for its owners, including Morgan's White Star Line. But perhaps the most significant consequence of the Titanic disaster was the void it left in the maritime market. With the loss of the Titanic and its sister ship the Olympic gone without a trace, there was suddenly a shortage of ocean liners capable of serving transatlantic routes. This vacuum created an opportunity for JPMorgan to further consolidate its control over the shipping industry. With competitors weakened or eliminated by the Titanic disaster, Morgan moved swiftly to expand his influence, acquiring rival shipping companies and solidifying his dominance in the market. As the world mourned the lives lost in the icy waters of the North Atlantic, J.P. Morgan seized the opportunity to further his own ambitions, exploiting the aftermath of the Titanic disaster to cement his place as one of the most powerful and influential figures of his time. The Titanic disaster thus served as a convenient means for Morgan to consolidate his power and eliminate those who threatened his interests. While the official narrative portrays the sinking as a tragic accident, some believe that it was in fact a carefully orchestrated event designed to serve Morgan's cunning agenda. Whether or not J.P. Morgan played a direct role in this cancellation of his rival's reservations remains a matter of speculation, but the timings of their decisions, coupled with Morgan's known influence and ambition, raises troubling questions about their true motives behind the Titanic conspiracy. The Titanic conspiracy remains a chilling reminder of the length of which some will go in pursuit of power and profit, leaving us to question the true motives behind one of history's greatest tragedies. The truth behind the conspiracy may never be fully known, but one thing is certain: the sinking of the Titanic remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century, shrouded in intrigue and speculation. Thank you for watching. If you found this video entertaining, share and comment. It helps the channel grow and provide similar videos for your entertainment.